in additions to that?
Well, if there's no changes of the meeting that Joan sent us, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second for that motion?
No, I have a correction on the minutes. I'd like to make sure it gets in there.
Well, let's hear your correction, John.
All right, if you look at the minutes, let me get the right thing here.
I don't have them.
Minor, but it's important. On the second page, it said Melandon requests that fire department perform an evacuation drill. I didn't request that. I requested a fire suppression drill. And I think that needs to be changed to that. The word evacuation needs to be changed to fire suppression drill. Is that correct, Brian? You did understand that. I understood you were going to put it on the schedule, and I think Pollard addressed that too. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I can
All right.
I can change it, but I did go back and listen to the whole meeting to get the words that people use. So maybe it was possibly misstated, and I don't know. But I will make,
Well, there's quite a distinction between the two terms. One involves the use of the fire department equipment and going to a site and so forth, whatever the drill is planned for. Evacuation turns, excuse me.
All right,
Evacuation.
so do we have the minutes corrected as requested?
Yeah, that's all we got to do. Just change that word.
they're not corrected yet because this is the first I'm hearing about it. So.
Okay.
But so you're going to approve it based on making that change?
Yes.
We'll approve the consent or approve the minutes? Yeah.
Let me take a step backwards on the agenda. That are there members of the public or others that we should be recognizing that are at the fire station?
Eric and Scott are both here.
Eric and Scott are both
good.
here. Okay, and any members of the public?
No members of the public here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the minutes we have updated, and there's a motion on the floor to approve them.
Well, I guess I need to change my thing to with the approval of consent agenda with a correction.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second it, Baker.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Melandon,
Pass. As best as I can tell, I don't hear somebody keeping track of Skip is.
Sounded unanimous to me.
He's right here, so we're keeping track of him.
What's that?
Okay.
You're right here, so.
All right, let's move on the agenda then. We're ready to go to the financial reports.
Oh, the consent agenda says the Zoom minutes from the meeting of January 23rd, where it was, last month was September.
Oh, on the agenda, it talks about the 23rd of January.
Right.
We haven't,
We'll probably
I haven't seen those meetings yet, those minutes yet. Have you?
I'll get them done.
Okay.
What was the minutes that we're talking about here?
Yeah,
They were
correct the
last
agenda.
month, September. I'll just make that correction. It's hard copy.
Gosh, as we speak, real time.
September, what was it?
It's the 22nd, isn't it?
24? 24. Is that right? Here. Okay.
Right, okay.
Okay, are we all together now?
Yeah.
We move on to the accounts payable.
What do you want, her comments or what?
Yeah, are there two things we need to occur, one of which is we need to agree to pay the bills. And the second item is that I'm not sure my concerns are too big a deal, but I'd like to talk about our balance and if we should be moving some more money into the checking account. First of all, is there a motion to pay the bills?
I'd like to talk about the bills a little bit.
Okay,
And the question is really addressed to Eric and Hollis.
What?
Look at this organ apparatus bill with $6,962. I think we paid $10,000 for that engine. Is that correct? Anybody remember that number?
12,000. Is this the Pierce engine? Yeah, 12,000.
How much did we spend on it?
12,000 is the consensus.
12,000, and we add this to it, so that engine cost us 7, 12, 19,000, right? Everybody with me on that?
yeah,
You know, that's quite a list of work that they had to do, and I'm sure that seemed reasonable to you, Eric, and Scott. You want to make a comment about that? What do you think? And apparently, it's in good shape now. That's what I get from the report.
So, yeah, my understanding is direction the board wanted is they wanted to make sure that was certified to pump. So we got it in there. They had a list of things that they need to do to make sure that it would pass its pump test. Unfortunately, I have not yet received the pump test. I did receive the paperwork for the other engine that's up there, but I should get that document tomorrow. But it did, with the work that they did, everything passed, so it is a certified pump and good to go, so we can use it.
Well, that's good. Okay. I appreciate those comments. I also noted that engine's back at the station, right? Scott, I think you said something like that.
Yeah, it's back to Hazeldell.
Okay, it's back at the station. And it's got a number on it, 1521. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I look for those numbers and I can't find them when I go up there. But anyway, I'll look again.
I have a
Okay,
comment.
well, that answers my question on that.
all right.
I have a comment on that same engine.
What was that, Joan?
I have a comment on that same engine. I recall when Chief Hansen left, before he left, he said that pump, it didn't pump, and he was planning on getting rid of it. Do you recall that? He just thought we should, he said it's no good, and he was ready to sell it or get rid of it. So my question, I didn't ask him, but why would we buy something that didn't pass a pump test and then have to incur all these costs? I mean, it's not, it just seems like that when a purchase is made like that, you would want to make sure that it's,
Right.
you get the value for the money you put into it, and it's just a lesson.
I think I kind of have an answer for you on that. It actually did initially pass the pump test, and it really was mechanic when he did the last pump test on it. It didn't pass the test, and he felt that it would be more to fix it than what it was actually worth. That's where that came from. I don't think Mike ever said that, but
Oh,
the
okay,
mechanic did say that.
okay. I got the understanding that he was, kind of done with that vehicle, that engine, but that's passed, so ready to move on. But
Yeah.
just think it's worthy to. So what do we do about our insurance? We have this valued at $12,000. And now is it more valuable than it was when I've just been looking at our insurance. We have the replacement cost is $12,000. So something to.
Well,
Well, replacement cost, I think, is a lot higher than that, isn't it?
yeah, replacement cost,
Okay.
for a new fire truck, or even a used fire truck, you're gonna look at, I mean, $50,000. So,
So it's still a bargain.
so it's still a
Right.
bargain, yes, but, I
Working
think the insurance, I would talk to, Rex and see what his recommendation is. And maybe let's see what the cost difference is to raise that. I mean, if you take it out and you roll that wreck, or roll the engine, are they only gonna give you the 12,000 for it, or
That's
can
the
you insure it
maximum.
for more?
I was just reading. I'm just reading the insurance documents, and they said that's the amount that's listed as the maximum. So it's just worth just talking about when we.
But did
go.
you want me to, I talked to Rex. You want me to ask that question?
Sure,
Yeah.
I read that, but we could go over that later.
But I don't know if you can insure that engine for 40,000 if it's
Right,
only a
No,
12,000.
Yeah, I mean, they'll gauge that as a replacement cost for a light engine. So I'll have to talk to Rex about it
Okay.
though and see what he thinks of replacement value should be, could be.
Did they ever actually send us an estimate when we took it in?
No, I never got an estimate.
I never got one either.
They called me, or I called them a couple times, asked for estimates, and then it was dragging out for so long, I just told them to fix it and get it back to us.
Okay, and one other thing I'm just thinking about is that this is the cost is greater than 5,000, so that might need to be capitalized on the books with the bookkeeper.
Repair,
To put, it's a question to the bookkeeper, to the auditor.
yeah, or I can ask my finance director
Okay.
about capital investment like that. So we can,
I don't know, yeah.
Take that for us. Yep.
Okay.
With all of the little bit of confusion with noise on the system, could somebody give me a 1 or a 2 sentence summary of what we just agreed to, if anything?
I was
Okay.
going to ask for that too.
Can you guys hear me well enough?
Yes.
Okay, so Joan was asking about, made the comment that it was only had a replacement value on that engine of about $12,000. And now we put 6 into it, bring it up to almost 20,000. Should we adjust the replacement value, if it's even possible? And kind of, was it worth the investment? The other comment was that to replace it with an engine that can do the same thing is somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000. So Skip kind of said, well, it's worth the money because to get a light type engine is going to be $40K. So, and I'm going to talk to Rex about replacement value and can it be higher or should it be higher, the insurance agent. And I'm also going to answer the question or ask my finance director if how we have to categorize that as far as whether a capital investment or not, since it's a $6,000 investment in the motor.
All righty, thank you.
Not too long.
Thank you very much.
like
I
to.
appreciate that too, because it's like Kurt says, the sound is difficult.
The other question
Okay.
I had, and this is maybe Joan, you know the answer to this, but looking at our balance sheet, it shows we've got about $6,800 in the checking account. The question is, do we need to move some more money into that?
Okay, that's a good question because that's exactly what I was thinking. But this is after the October checks clear, right? So we need to keep $5,000 minimum. So we have $5,000 minimum in Banner Bank now. In November, we'll begin to get our tax collections. And they usually come at least in three times because they get a lot, so they send you 3 times. So we'll get 3 separate deposits to Banner Bank. So I would just wait until we start getting, that starts rolling in and, you know, see.
All right, thank
what
you.
we got. But thank you. It's on my agenda.
I have a question. I don't know if I can answer. So the county, when you get tax revenue from the county, that goes to your Banner Bank. It doesn't go to LGIP.
It goes to Banner Bank. It goes to Banner Bank, right.
The question was, where does tax revenue come in? And that the answer was to Banner Bank, not to LGIP.
And then we can send it to LGIP.
Okay, so the resolution of this is, as Joan pointed out, that when we start getting revenue, we'll have plenty of money to cover our bills. And then we can talk about how we want to put that money into whatever different accounts to capture $1.25 of interest or whatever. Okay, thank you. Financial report for September. Joan, we may be. Oh, that's all the bills.
Herb, do you
Yes.
want to approve the payment of all the bills?
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't agree on that. I was
Yeah, I
carried
think-
away there. I would entertain a motion to pay the bills.
I so moved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. We pay the bills. Is there additional discussion on the measure? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Meland and I.
I can't tell how Skip voted, but
Yeah.
You got an eye from Skip.
okay, so it passed unanimously by the board members present. Thank you.
I have a question before we go on. Since we're doing Zoom meetings, should we be raising our hands so everybody can see that?
I think that's a good idea, Pam, and especially where I'm not sure how we're being inclusive with Skip.
He's right here. We could see him raise his hand. We'll tell
All
him
right.
if he.
Well, somebody has to certify and attest to how he votes so that we can be accurate. Okay.
I guess I would still only decide.
Well, I think we need to be, when you need to talk, we'll turn the camera to you.
Okay. The financial report. Now, we've probably had this discussion before, but I'm seeking clarity for myself and maybe for others, that on the published document on 10/18, it doesn't show us with a beginning balance. And we had a beginning balance of about $50,000. Why is that so?
Because the program will not do that. It doesn't take beginning
Okay.
balances. So we do have it, but it's just not there. It doesn't.
All right,
take it
I'm
over.
okay with that as an answer. I'm just curious that, because our spendables is certainly more than the $1,300, because we started out with about 50 in the bank, so. All right. Is there questions or comments on the financial statement? Brian, is the city getting any feedback, or are you getting any feedback on how we expect to do on collections?
Lane County hasn't really provided any direct feedback about it. But, if you look at most communities are anticipating a smaller amount of revenue coming in due to COVID and people just not being able to pay their property taxes. So they're making, most of them are using figures of reduction of 10 to 20% expectation.
Okay, I don't know, how's the city, or what's the advice on how should we be managing our money, anticipating that?
I would just, you already had a pretty good size beginning balance, as you said. So I wouldn't be too concerned about sort of breaking the bank, but I would go in as you expend, knowing that, it's going to be a little bit less, most likely.
what I thought I would do is just make a spreadsheet that shows our collections last year by month, and then compare it to this year, and then we can see
Good.
how we're coming along.
Did you catch that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Brian, is there any anticipation from the city's point of view where their funding levels will affect Hazeldell and our relationship with the Oak Ridge Fire Department?
Well, there's obviously some significant issues out there with the tax levy that's been proposed, and if that does not pass, then there are going to have to be some adjustments made to the current city budget. But I right now, I don't expect it affecting the relationship with Hazeldell. It's primarily
Alrighty, thank you.
it's primarily centered around ambulance service.
Well,
Okay.
it's just too bad that had to come at this time, and we're during COVID.
No, it's not a good time. It's been kind of challenging year.
Yeah.
Okay, are there comments or observations of any of the board members on the financial report? It looks like we are being conservative in our spending, which is, I think, is very prudent. And I think we'll be in a good position.
Let me ask
So,
let me ask a quick question. Joan, on vehicle repair and maintenance, that you don't put the actuals for the repair like this $6,900 until next report. Is that as I understand the process?
That's right. I asked the bookkeeper to run reports through the prior month because it's complete, and the
I see.
new invoices do not show up in this report yet.
All right. And Herb, I didn't hear a conclusion as to whether you want to transfer money into the checking account. Did Joan agree?
I think
to do that?
Joan made a recommendation that we have adequate funds for our anticipated bills, and that the tax revenue will start coming in November, and it goes in to Banner Bank, so that we should have enough cash that will meet our commitment,
Oh,
certainly
thank
our
you.
minimum commitment of $5,000, but enough accessible cash to finance whatever we've got budgeted for. Is that correct, Joan?
Right, and as a matter of fact, I just looked up the rates, and it looks like the Banner Bank rate is 0.03%. That's the rate of interest. And I think we have LGIP in the short-term fund, and they just reduced it to 0.75%. So it really is quite a bit larger in LGIP than you get in Banner Bank.
Okay.
So
All right.
That answers
So
my
this-
question. Thank you.
Everybody comfortable moving on with the financial reports? On to the, I don't know if there's no public, I guess we won't have any public comments. I don't know, unless somebody has correspondence, I don't have any. We can move on to old business, which is a Spectrum survey.
I wanted to catch you up to speed on, I heard back from Spectrum,
And I'm not sure who's,
and the concern was that there would be a charge for having to extend the service to the fire station, but it came back as green, which means that you can sign up for service anytime you want. And I know you're concerned about the finances, so it's not something you would have to do immediately. So I would recommend if you want to wait until you see the tax revenue notes and then make a decision on whether you want the cable service there to hook up the security system to, you can make it then. But there's no imperative to do it now, other than you might pay an installation charge, which is being waived right now.
I'd like to discuss that a little bit. What was the vision for having this service at the station? Is it to transmit the video that we have in place, which the alarm is still ringing, by the way? And do we want a phone? And the the problem with phones is that if we get a knockdown on the cable line for Spectrum, we're going to lose phone service up there. So that's not necessary. I think the most important communication link is the one that's up there now that you all have been using for years, the radio. So I'd like to hear some discussion of what do you think we need the Spectrum service for? Any ideas?
From my perspective, the only reason you would want it would be to have the ability to monitor the security system remotely. So the firefighters, paramedics here on duty could be monitoring that 24/7 because they have someone here 24/7. But if you're comfortable with the current situation, you know, there's no need because it is going to be close to $80 a month, I believe, to pay for that service.
Brian, do you happen to know if we would waive how much cost would be?
Pam, you broke up a little bit. Can you repeat yourself?
Do you know how much the activation would cost to start now if we decided at a later date?
They're really in a kind of a push their business mode. So I would guess that this waiver of the installation fees is going to go for a while. But if you didn't, it's in the neighborhood of like $120 to install.
Okay.
And then it's about-
So I think that you have made the suggestion that we let it ride for a while until we do some balancing on our funding, and whether or not we actually need and or want the services that would provide. Now, there was some questions earlier, or discussion, I guess, on the school system wanting to be able to have hotspots, certainly around the city, but maybe in the rural route too, for their remote education thing. And I guess ought to let them take some initiative if that's really what they want to do. Because it could be a hotspot where people could drive in our parking lot and have a, I don't know, styrofoam cup of coffee and use our hotspot like they do in the big cities. But
Hey,
Well, it would be, yeah.
the school did look at it, and after we saw what the range was of these transmitters, it would only hit the fire station. It wouldn't even go to Camp 6. So it was really kind of a, that would be the only thing that would happen is you could have people drive up to the station and use the hotspot.
so, but make sure I'm understanding you. They didn't think it was worth the money?
No, it wouldn't reach any of their people of school-age kids that were around the area. Didn't have the range to reach those houses. If that's our goal, is to get, because everyone's operating remotely, they want to get Wi-Fi to kids that don't have available internet access.
Right. And I'm not sure I'm hearing you correctly. The bottom line is what? They don't want to do it?
Not for the fire station. No, they because of the range, they wouldn't hit any of their kids. So
Okay.
their decision was
Well, I
not.
just thought we could if we could share in the service, we might share in the cost with the school. But it sounds like a non-starter.
If you wanted to
What
pitch
other-
in and get service, then I could talk with Rita, or we could talk with Rita, and I'm sure that we can work an arrangement out, but it would be at a cost.
Well, but if the system isn't very effective for their objectives, then I don't see much point pursuing it.
Well, there's a line up to High Prairie to Mountain View where there are a lot of kids on that street. And I don't know about in your area, Joan, how many children are up in your area where they could use service in case we're going to be doing virtual education for a while. And, well, that's their problem, really, I think. the only other thought I had is that, and we'll discuss this a little bit more, I think, later, is the evacuation of High Prairie constituents. If we ever use the station as a site for housing people or doing something in an evacuation of a wildfire situation, then we may want that kind of service up there for
Yeah.
telephones and so forth. Well, I don't know. It's something we got to study.
Yeah, normally they could, if in fact we do use it as a site, they can establish communications pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So as the need is there, we can meet the service. All right, let's move on to, the agenda says review schedule of action items. John, you've been doing that for us historically.
Okay.
What do we got?
Well, if everyone will look at their report that I sent and that Brian attached to his agenda, I'd like to just go over those briefly and see how this works out for us. I could manage the listing that we have here rather than using the form, and it saved Joan having to retype all of this information as we go. But the bold print is a person assigned as the coordinator for this item, and there are three categories roughly in these action items list. One is to show it as complete, and the other is to show it in the whole situation, pending more information, and the final is a comment on what action has been taken. I will be adding 2 more items for next month's listing. But let's go over it briefly, and if you have any comments, notes that you want to put into this, let's address it. So, item number 1, that's a to-do item, which we're not going to do anything with. Item number 2, audit and review finances. That's something that is coming up again next year, so or in November. Nothing to report there.
Actually, I report.
Yeah, Joan, go ahead.
I should start before November, but I haven't started yet, and now I'm ready to start as soon as we get through this meeting. So I haven't got a list from the auditor. I need to contact the auditor and just make sure we're still on board with that. Otherwise, I just use last year's list and go for that.
So the entry there would be to make contact with the auditor to schedule the audit. Is that what you would want to put there?
I have to put together the documents that they want to see. They want to see
Oh, I see.
our court minutes. They want to see all of our reports from our banking. So they want to see all that. You got to compile all that and stuff like that. Other things too. Insurance, they want to see our insurance schedules and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll just add the note there, assemble information for audit. Item number 3, interview of the new chief, and that's on hold because of a budget restraint. Is that correct, Brian?
Still correct.
Okay. Item 4, best practices. That one's complete, so if you won't see it again next.
No, that's last year's, John. That's last year's best practices. The new one is.
We got to do it again.
Yes, every year. So it's best practices is due November 5th. If you want an update on it, there's 5 items. The ones we don't have are, comes with the insurance, and they sent me the insurance. So Skip went to the annual meeting, that counts for 2% reduction. I can take a training online by then, that counts for 2%. Something else, oh, we have a membership in the Oregon ODDFA. That counts for 2%. And then the other two are not possible for us to achieve at this point. It's too late. We would have to adopt a harassment policy and have a harassment checklist. And I would ask, the city have that?
Yeah, it's in our
that.
personnel manual.
Yeah, I think at this point, we don't have time to get that into our to get it approved unless we had a workshop, but
Yeah, you'd have to get a special meeting.
yeah, so I'm gonna just pass on that opportunity. So we'll get 6% and I'll put it into the SBIS website that we accomplish those things.
So we get a 6% reduction in the fee. Is that what you're saying as a result of these
Right.
4 items that you've done?
Right.
Okay.
We haven't gotten 100%,
Super.
10% lately, last couple of years.
I have a question about number 4. Instead of saying completed, it probably needs to be put in that it needs to be done yearly in the fall.
Right, annually.
Don't like the
So
audit.
it's, yeah. For it, is it always in November, Joan?
Well, they changed the date. They tell you the date that the date that they want it in, but in the past they've extended it for various reasons. So I just know it's due the 5th at this point. So I'm planning on getting it done by the
Okay,
5th.
just put it annually in the fall.
Yes.
Okay,
So he should say annual due in fall or due in November.
This is due in November?
Yeah, generally.
Okay. I'm going to make those notes. 4 items accomplished, 6% reduction in rate, and the input information is due in November. That's okay?
Yes.
That sounds like what you said. All right.
the word annually, John.
What's that? Annually.
Yes.
All right. I'll add those words. All right. The yard light, has this one been done? I've been trying to get up there at night and I haven't been able to do that.
John, I took from the last meeting that from an operational point of view, this is a problem we don't need to solve, that the trucks with the lights that are on them and the facility lights that are there, that what we have is more than adequate to get the work done.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Operational
But the reason
lighting
John,
provided.
brought this
Yeah.
up initially is because Pam thought we could get a less expensive light installed that would cost less on our invoice from.
Well, you might look at that light. Looks different than any lights I've ever seen before. It's got a flat face, and I think it's if you look at it at night, I haven't been able to do that, but if you look at it at night, it may be very bright and sufficient to cover the area, and they may have changed it. So I'll do that. I'll take you off of that.
Thank you.
I'll compare it.
Okay.
with the old.
All right. Good point, Joan. Item number 6 is done. Item number 7.
Take it off, John. Take it off. Take number 6 off.
Is
The one-time thing.
is that That item done, Joan.
Yes, it's done. Take it off the list. And skip. We're here.
I'm not going to do it, and it's not dependent on a chief coming, right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think he moved on to something else.
Okay.
Prepare job description for minutes and agenda staff assistant. And you want to wait until you get the new chief here before you do something like that? Do you need help, Joan? I guess that's your
No, I
issue.
don't.
That's
Yeah. John, no, I don't need help right now.
that's what generated that item.
That's right.
You're okay then.
We can't do
So
anything
you want to put this item on hold.
anyway. So there's just not a problem right now. We just got to, everybody's just got to dig in and do their best.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to show that on hold. No action necessary. All right. I put this item number 8. You know what your job description is, isn't it in the policy manual?
No,
I think we did that at one time.
there was a rough draft I received initially. Things have changed so much that it doesn't really, we would have to do something else
You
again.
don't need this?
No, there's a lot more to it than I thought that's on the list, and yeah, it'd be good to record it sometime to really get that down, but I haven't yet. Somebody else is going to do this. But
So what I hear you saying is you don't need to have this job description.
I'm saying it's on.
I really think it's somewhere in the policy manual that you're saying what, Joe?
The
Are we
it's
going-
not in our policy manual. It's something that I should do so that somebody else can take over this position and they would have an outline of what.
Oh, I see.
Doesn't the association
Well,
have
why don't we
a
just,
policy?
There is something, and that was useful. That just gave general guidelines, but not specific to this district. We're unique because we don't have any staff to handle this.
Yeah.
And that would govern how you transfer documents, who does what part of the work. So I can't tell you.
okay, I'm gonna, all right, so on that item, Joan, I'm gonna say we don't need it at this time, and we'll put the item on hold. All right, the item number 9, I'm about 50% complete on that policy, and I'm gonna essentially use parts of the school system's policy. I've used it with other activities that I was in, and it works pretty good. And so I'll be sending this out to everyone as soon as I get the draft of the policy written. Item number 10. Is something that we agreed to put on hold because of the coronavirus and ODF wildfire activity. So we just can't go any further with that, and the issue will be dependent on whether or not Bird retires. He looks pretty healthy to me, and I don't think he wants to retire what he's doing. So you want to add to that, Eric or Scott, where we are with that. You know, on this whole item, we were gonna build a permanent addition to the High Prairie Station, and the discussion really led to, well, until we really know what we're going to do, if we need it in an emergency, we'll put a temporary trailer or something up there to house people in the summertime. Is that what everyone kind of has an understanding of?
That's what I understood.
To my understanding, it was on hold until.
Call from Justin Millennium.
Yeah. What was your understanding? Excuse me.
That it was just on hold until Forest Service and Hazeldell met again to figure things out.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Item number 11 is complete. And I gave you the contact person and named the law group. Item number 12. Item number 12. Is that correct? Is that a correct entry? I was a little puzzled about the Dodge Ram. Is that another? Oh yeah, that's that service vehicle. It's not a firefighting deal.
Yeah, that's just.
And that's done.
I don't know if that's trying to refer as Leo Robb as fire chief, but Leo Robb was never fire chief. So.
No, both of them were working on it.
Oh, okay. So, but that's a completed item. It's here and in service.
There is a comma between chief and Leo Robb, so that we're talking about the chief and Leo Robb, just for clarity.
So that's an accurate note on there that it's complete, right? Item 12.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Item 13 is on hold because of COVID. Item 14, that's on hold. We haven't made any decision on that yet. Item 15, we repaired the roof and everything's fine, except that alarm is still going off on that video camera.
Okay.
If somebody, I can't climb ladders. I've been restricted by my wife not to climb.
I'll go up there tomorrow and get that number.
Sorry. I would climb up there and get the name of the place, but we need to call the technician who installed that thing to go up there and fix it.
I will give them.
Every time I go in there, yeah, go ahead. Excuse me.
I will go up there either tonight or tomorrow and get that phone number and call him tomorrow.
All right. If you're going to do that, Eric, that's fine. I'll do it. But that's got a gremlin up there. All right. Item 15. Eric will follow up on that. Item 16, Joan, is that done?
No, nothing is gonna get done extra until I get this audit materials done. That's a real big thing. That'll take me some time. So I'm not working on anything else right now.
All right. So you're not working on that because it's other
I'm too
activities
busy.
have priority, right?
Priority. It's not a
Okay.
priority right now.
And item 17, board signatures have done. And item 18, Pam, that's your favorite subject. Look, if you will find out, I guess we need to go to some place and buy something and not worry about this surplus stuff.
18.
Right, Pam?
Yeah, I agree. I move it, I second it, I third it, I fourth it, whatever it needs to be.
And
So one option, I'm pretty sure that we have some filing cabinets at
Yeah,
at the WAC that we are not using, that we can, you can put 3-ring binders in them and see the front of them at the top. So I think we can go get a filing cabinet from the WAC and take it to the station.
I think that would be a great idea.
We're not using them, and that way you don't have to spend any money.
That's even better yet.
okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Have to go look.
I'm gonna say move the unit to station. I'll amplify that. All right. Moving on. Item number 19. I want to delete that item. We've already discussed it in item 10. Insurance renewal, that's been done, right? Joan?
We're on the insurance renewal for 2021 now, and we have all the documents, and I want to talk.
Okay, so that one for 2020 is done.
But she's working on 2021,
Right.
so that needs to be added.
It's got to be added. Okay.
We just received the document.
2021. Okay. Brian, I understand you sold the Ford 250.
Yeah, the bidding got hot and heavy at the end. We had 15 bids on it, and it eventually sold for $1,100, which
Wow.
as soon as the rest of the auction clears, I guess either cut a check or somehow transfer money to Hazeldell.
You can cut a check
That's
and
good.
if you got cash, we could deposit it. That's how you do it.
Did you find the title?
We did.
Okay.
Where was the title?
Wait a minute, that's the one. No, that's the one I actually had to do a lost title.
Okay,
$1,100. Boy, they got a deal, huh?
great.
All right, item 22. Scott and
Yeah.
Brian, you some action on this one. Where do you stand on that? As you recall, I want to use that for recruitment for truck drivers. And Scott, you told me that we could just train people for driving the truck and not have to rig the pumps or whatever it is that needs to be rigged to fight a fire. So where did we stand on that? My plan was to get that, and then I could visit with people who I think would be candidates and try to convince them to join up and to do that.
Is establish a policy within the department of having non-certified drivers, and then we can do that. But they would still have a training program that they would have to complete to be able to do that for insurance and OSHA rules.
Absolutely.
So John, what you need is just the actual recruiting poster to carry around.
Yeah, that's what I plan to do.
All right, we'll try to get it on one sheet.
But unless we work on this, and have people from our area involved, they're not going to take an interest in their station or their department. And I want to encourage that by trying to get at least drivers qualified in the manner you need to do it, Scott, and that would be fine. That's what I'm trying to accomplish there.
Yeah. Part of the problem is you train somebody to drive and they go to the station and grab the fire engine and they arrive on scene. If they have no fire training, you're kind of limited as to what they can do.
Well, that's right. you know, they'll have to have, you know, for example, I would think that they have to have a radio to be on call, and they have to operate the vehicle and be there when there's a drill or whatever, and what their qualifications would be. I understand, Scott, they need to have a license from the state to drive a large vehicle, right?
Yeah, they have to be a licensed driver, but they don't have to have a license to drive a fire engine.
You don't have to have a CDL in the state of Oregon to drive a fire truck.
Did you
All
copy?
right. What was that last comment?
You do not have to have a commercial driver's license, CDL, to drive a fire truck in Oregon.
Yeah, okay.
It's not required.
Well, anyway, I was looking forward to having something like that I could use for recruitment. And you would tell them how much training they would have to have, and let's just see what happens.
Right.
Okay. Any idea when you could get that, Scott?
Well, Eric's our training officer, so that's kind of his area. But PSSD kind of outlines what the requirements are, and people can become certified apparatus and tender operators without being a firefighter.
But annually would require 60 hours a year of continuing education to maintain the certificate.
Okay, I'm just going to put in process that you're doing that in process. Item 23, how's the sign program going, Scott?
Finally was able to get an inventory from Justin. We actually only have 9 posts and no signs. So Joan asked me to kind of put our request in a format that she's familiar with, and I just got that. So I haven't been able to write up the invoice or request to purchase items. I was going to lay that out for you guys and have it ready for our next meeting.
Right.
Okay, so you have the money that I think we set aside to do that, and you're going to order signs, have them in stock. Is that it? Okay. All right. I'd like to add an item number 24, which is I've entitled as drill. And Brian, I understand you're going to schedule a drill, a fire suppression drill. I haven't added it yet. I was going to add it. It's in the minutes that you talked about doing this.
Yeah, that's correct. We were targeting in October, but Scott, are we going to make that or not?
So I've been working on trying to get. Problem is we don't have very many firefighters that live in Oak Ridge, so it's hard to get enough people together to do that. But on Sunday, we're going to go up there and we'll at least do a walkthrough on the water system and show how we're going to set a water relay system up there. And then as soon as we can get some more firefighters, we can do a more hefty drill up there.
Well, this is technically an operational issue, whether or not you think you need a drill. But as a board member, I'd like to have some assurance that all the equipment's going to start. That's number one that you need, and that you're able to get there in a reasonable time, and that if we were able to, is to stage a mock fire somewhere in the district and have you find it if you got a sign on the address and report there and operate the engine and pull the hoses so it do whatever you need to do to feel that you have a confidence level that would assure us and the folks in the district that we're ready to go. And
John, how would you feel about working with Eric or myself or both of us on putting together a drill that you would like to see, and we'll lay it out however you guys want it?
that would be good, Scott. I appreciate that very much. Okay, well that's the one that I'd like to add. And then the item number 25, which I'm going to add, is disaster information, and evacuation, emergencies, and so forth for Hazeldell folks. Now, Herb and I talked about this, and as a citizen living in High Prairie area, when we were having all these fires, I was wondering, where do we go? And I know I have to take certain things, and I pulled out the instructions that you have, Brian, in the instructions to the public wildland fires and evacuation plans. And one of the items under evacuation, it says follow designated evacuation routes nearest to you. And we need to do something like that for High Prairie Station. And I would suggest that the board members look at that website and take a look and see what has been written. And you also mentioned something about reception centers, and there's no identity of where those reception centers are located. I would like to know as a citizen where I would go if I had a fire. And the third and most important thing is escape routes. Now, I've talked to several folks in the district, and as I told Herb what I was going to do, and I still have to talk to Jerry Shorey, and I'm going to talk to Willingham, who is the executive director of emergency planning and so forth, and see what their thoughts are. But I would like, as a vision, I would like to put out a piece of paper like you have there and deliver it to every member that we have with instructions for Hazeldell folks as to what they can expect, and escape routes only if they're told to go on those escape routes, because there are two road routes that you would take to get off the mountain if you had to, but you don't want to go traipsing down a road that could be on fire that you don't see at the time you start. So those things have got to be worked out. Am I making sense to you, Herb? You
Yeah,
and I.
John, we're certainly timely. And somehow or other, we need to probably incorporate somebody from the sheriff's office, because these evacuation things, it appears just from looking at our neighbors, is something that the sheriff's office manages. But the notion of having a formalized plan to distribute to all of our members is a very good idea.
Well, that I'm going to add that item, and when I get all the contacts made and the information developed, I think I'd like to see us prepare a document just like this, but a little more specificity in it that says where your evacuations should be. For example, the folks on the McKinsey came down and they stayed at Weimar area in Springfield, and they had a designated place. I think, I don't know, maybe they
That in Thurston High School.
and Thurston High School. That was good. And Brian had mentioned utilizing the city high school, and I'm sure that's one that we could list. I don't know. This thing has got to be planned out a little bit more. I'll be talking to Willingham and see what she tells me, and then Brian, we could work on this thing together.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
All righty, thank you, John.
All right. Item 25 is going to be added next time. And I want to thank you all for bearing with me. Following action reports like this, action list is tough. You're trying to define what needs to be done and who's going to do it. So we'll keep at it.
All right, if we don't keep track, it just slips through the cracks. All right, we're ready to move on to new business. Vehicle inventory and sale. Are we thinking about selling something?
That was a, actually, was it John? Did you request that, or was that you, Joan?
You know what? I added that only because we were doing the insurance and I had gotten the list of vehicles from Eric. And then Eric and I went through the different numbering systems, and he told me why we used to call them 2921 or whatever. And those numbers are not used officially anymore in your emergency calls, on calls. But those are local numbers that we use to refer to certain vehicles. Is that right?
Yeah, you're talking about the old radio designator for the vehicles. We don't use the 2900 series or the, what was for 1200 series. It was a couple years ago, everything was renumbered to the 1500 series.
Right. Okay. So there's several different lists, and some of them have the old numbers, some of them have the new numbers. Like the insurance goes by the old numbers. So it's just, you got to look carefully when you're comparing two documents. So it just came up for me because I was going through the insurance, and because I have to provide a list to the auditors.
Right.
So that's it.
What number are you talking about, Joan?
New business vehicle inventory. There's no sale. You were going to report on the sale of the other vehicles,
Right.
I guess.
Which we did, yep.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I'll take that. I can get that document. Is it? Oh, there you go. Another one.
And that one's for
All right.
Skip.
Skip going.
Oh, he's got one.
Oh, he's already got it? Okay.
Thank you.
I actually was working on that too. I just try to know, no one waste my time.
Oh,
So
here's a pocket.
this is just, what this document is I just threw it together today for your reference. The list of Hazeldell apparatus, or where it's at. So the first number there is radio number. That's what we use mostly on the radio. 1519s en route, 1521s en route, whatever. We don't use Medic 1. Medic 1 is just an internal document. We use 1519, 1520, 29 as our two medic units, but we rotate the first two medic units out. So 1519 will be a different medic unit next month. It's so we're not racking up the miles on the same medic unit. What number always stays the same is the VIN number, that third column. So, and it just gives you the year of the vehicle and what it is and whether it's in service or out of service. Currently, the only vehicle that's out of service is that water tender, the 1979 Ford F900 that's at Hazeldell. We just put batteries in it, but I was unable to get it to start. I talked to a mechanic. I was going to go and do some stuff, but he told me to be careful with
Starter fluid?
Starter fluid. Because you can blow the head right off the top of that motor. So I'm not a mechanic, so I probably need to call somebody that actually knows what they're doing on diesels to try to get to start. It could just be the diesels because I don't know when the last time that tender was actually driven anywhere.
It's a very difficult piece of equipment to drive, so not very many people can drive it.
So
I think that's the first tender we bought for the district.
It is.
That's the one that Jerry Shorey sprayed everybody with after a parade. I want to ask you about that, Eric. We used to have someone at the station who would work on these vehicles. We don't have that anymore.
No, they,
did we have a volunteer work on trucks?
No, we had
The
Barry
fire.
Nelson and
Oh.
Jim Archer were, part of their job description was mechanic.
So, yeah, currently none of our paid staff are wrench turners, but so we don't have a mechanic on staff.
Brian, up behind me is a gentleman by the name of Randy Himmel. And Randy is a diesel mechanic and really knows his stuff. He's not, I went up and asked him, I said, are you certified to work on fire equipment? And he says, I don't know what you mean by certified, but I can fix diesel engines. So if you'd like to contact him, I could give you his contact information and bring him in and try him out and see what he could do with that. He's willing. He says, I'll work on anything you guys have got. But I don't,
you get it started.
he's not certified.
Yeah, I have yeah, I'll give you a call tomorrow and get his contact information, or you can send it to me via email. I also have a contact at the diesel mechanic. I can call him and see what his rate is.
He's got a truck and everything, and the guy is very dedicated. I've lived here for a number of years, and he leaves the house at sometimes between 6 and 7 in the morning and gets back late at night. So he's got a good business, and he's a pretty competent person. I've had a lot of recommendations about him. Okay, will do.
All right, we're ready to move on to the SDIS insurance renewal.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it on the agenda. I wasn't. Okay, so we got the package, and I will provide a copy to Brian and send him the link. Let's see, what's important here? There's a renewal checklist. We need to turn in the general liability update form by the 13th of November. I don't know why they have not applicable the auto liability, but did you provide them with something yet? It just says NA.
Let's see.
Well, we should do the,
It's an update form, so it's if something's changed.
okay, all right. We'll do that because we've got one to come off if we didn't give them that information. And property schedule forms, crime renewal. We don't have crime renewal. I think we had to complete the document last time. And if we don't have any changes, we're not going to complete it again. But we did need to fill it out. So, and then the best practices, and then the board member forms. So I'll go over these. What the interesting thing that everything's due by the 15th. So I'd like to discuss it with you at least so that we
Right.
and maybe somebody else too. I don't know, Herb or whoever else needs to be involved. It does the unfortunately it talks about the cost. It says budget for a 12% increase. So SDIS is advising you to budget for an average premium increase of around 12%.
Yeah, it's not unusual. CIS for us, it went up significantly, even higher
Okay.
than that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, I'm just, we can't change our budget by the time we have to pay this.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yep.
So, okay. So I'll send that to you. I'll give you copies and we'll, we can talk to it.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you, Joan. We're ready to move on to the chief's report.
Let's see. Activity reports. I got last week's, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, I just emailed the last week this morning.
1 second. Let me get it on the screen. Maybe. No. There we go.
Are we in progress with something? I'm just not paying attention, or?
Yeah, I'm trying to get this activity report up on the screen, but just give me a minute.
Okay.
Nope. All right, I don't have it, but we will press on to, I believe there was 50% transport rate over the past week out of Hazeldell, 50% of the total.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe there were 5 calls along those lines, but I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to give you bad information. So I propose we move on to the equipment readiness, which we looked at already. There was only the one problem with the tender.
Why
Everything
don't
else.
you mail it to us? That'd be good enough, Brian.
Yep, we'll do that.
You know,
Any questions on the status of the equipment?
How about the status of the organization? Are we doing any, what's our retention and training, and how are we doing for numbers of firefighters?
You want to speak there?
Well, we've got a lot of people. We're trying to get a academy put together. Our drills are kind of spotty here and there. So it's a work in progress.
We don't have,
tough
Okay.
time, isn't it?
Sorry,
we don't have any numbers of people actually.
I think we're at 28 or 38. 28. We have 28.
Volunteers.
We have 28 members. 4 of those would be,
County staff.
Yeah, that's counting full-time and part-time staff. So probably 20
All right.
volunteers total.
That's full-time and volunteers, did you say?
Full-time,
Full-time.
part-time, and volunteers. So 4 full-time,
Volunteer.
5
5
part-time.
part-time, and the rest 19 volunteer.
The situation right now, I think, when it comes to volunteers, is qualified volunteers is the issue, particularly in the firefighting side. We've got a couple paramedics, but we don't really have a lot of volunteer firefighters, which is why the press is to get the training program up for firefighters and not so much paramedics, but or EMT. So that's the focus moving forward and get started when we do come out of COVID to be able to get together and have dedicated.
Let me transition. A year or so ago, we were talking about having an interim chief until about June or July of this year. Obviously, with the budget items going on, we're looking at extending the interim chief. But is there any idea how long or what the future is for a full-time permanent chief?
Well, November 3rd will tell a lot, depending on what happens with the public safety levy. If that initiative fails, then I would say it's going to be extended for a significant period of time. In addition, we still have 2 outstanding grant applications for personnel, and that might ease up some of the manning issues and allow us to bring on somebody as a chief. So, but I wouldn't count on anything anytime soon, to be honest with you, given the budget consideration.
Okay.
Will that, Brian, will that request for voters to vote a emergency fund help on that situation?
It doesn't solve it completely as far as we talk about the deficit spending, but it certainly makes it not as critical. So as things progress, I think we'll be able to find some breathing room to look at the possibility of a part-time fire chief.
Okay, anything else, Chief, you need to share with the rest of us?
No, I think that does it.
Are you going to send us copies of that list that Eric showed of the equipment? That would be very helpful and good reference.
I sure will. We can include the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So do any of the directors have any reports they would like to make at this time?
There are 4 trees that are right next to the power lines going up to Dead Mountain. And a good wind will knock them into the wires and you lose power up there. And I have 2 gentlemen who are constituents of our district. One is Paul Pollard, who we already agreed to give him the wood if he pays us, and I want him to do that. He hasn't done that yet, but he and Devereaux, who has property up there adjacent to us, will take those trees down, and I would like to include that in your authority to allow them to do that, because they're on our property and they'll take the wood for their labor. So if the board will go along with that, I'll make those arrangements.
John, let me summarize what I think I heard you say. We've got 4 trees that are threatening the power lines to our station. You've talked to a couple cutters that would be willing to take them down in exchange for the value of the trees. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay,
So any additional discussion on that? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. And we got Skip in the picture there. Yeah, certified, it's on tape. Or is it memorized? I'm never sure. All right, thanks, John. Any other directors?
Yes, Joan. So I got another thing. Everything's coming this month. LGIP sent a notice that they're updating their website. This is the website that if I want to make a transfer of funds, I go to that website, and they have security questions and passwords and everything. Pam also, and she's never done it before, but you are available to do it. We just haven't brought you into it. The point is they're having security enhancements, so they have multi-factor authentication. So they're changing their people need to change their passwords. Not ready to go yet. It will be after the 28th, I think. so, of October. So I'll do it and find out what you guys, if you need to do anything. I know that Skip is not on it because we did this before Skip came on. So John and Herb are directors that are on this as just people that can go in and look at it. I don't know if you want to continue that in the future, or I could take you off, but we did kind of ask kind of a plan for how that would work at one point. Are both of you still interested in being able to go into? Herb?
Yes, yeah, yes.
Okay, and how about Melandon?
Yes.
Okay, well then we'll have to get you, I'll have to get you information on what we need to do here. I'll walk you through it.
Thank you. Any of the other directors have anything they want to report at this time? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. We are now officially adjourned. Thank you. Appreciate your patience with this process.
I appreciate the folks that are working on the front lines, Brian and Eric and Scott. I know it's very trying, and I hate to ask you to do anything because I know you're doggone busy. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Have a good night.
All right.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.